Claudia's Brain, chapter They Made No Honey. The chatter about the woman in time spiked just before Claudia traveled to Cairo. The resignation of Mubarak a few weeks earlier led to a suspension of the Egyptian constitution by the military and the dissolution of both houses of parliament. The military planned to rule for 6 months until elections could be held. Claudia knew there was danger the military wouldn't relinquish power if the public didn't demand otherwise. Just as concerning was the rise of the extremist Muslim Brotherhood, which was jockeying for political power. The stakes were too high, Claudia felt, to withdraw from this trip. She wanted to offer what support the West could for moderate, democratic, and secular interests. I urged her to postpone the trip. Just wait a little while. Give us time to nail down the threat. That might never happen, but it might. Give us a chance. This is the time, David. The whole thing weighs in the balance. There's a good chance that so goes Egypt, so goes the entire Arab Spring. I got up with her in the morning of her trip to Cairo. She woke the children and hugged them goodbye. Normally, she would have let them sleep. I've wondered about that over and over. She knew. She had to know. Yet, she went. Mommy has to go, sweetheart, but I think my travel will lessen soon. I miss you, Mommy, Uwe said. Mommy loves you. I love you with all my heart. Robert barely woke, but draped his arms around his mother before falling back in bed. The only details I know I got from Mandy, Claudia's executive assistant. After running through the speech one more time the night before, Claudia and Mandy walked back out onto the balcony of her Cairo hotel room. The heat greeted them rudely when they opened the door. I've been over there. The arid air is like trying to breathe raw cotton. Mandy said there was a lot of traffic and blaring of horns. There were no clouds, but no visible stars or moon either. Claudia was unusually quiet. I like to think she was reconsidering. After 10 minutes, they went back inside. I think we've gone over it enough. Good night, Mandy. As Mandy was about to open the door, Claudia stopped her. Mandy, yes. Am I wrong to be here? Yes, ma'am, you are. You really think so? You should be with your children. But the people here have children. There'll be millions of children who'll suffer if this all goes wrong. Yes, ma'am. You asked what I thought. Claudia nodded, then Mandy laughed. I thought she might call me from Cairo, but she didn't. Again, I think she knew. It's important whether or not she knew. It's important whether her actions were conscious. Was this Kierkegaard's religious act, Sartre's act of authenticity, Nietzsche's will to power, Camus' act of rebellion? Or was it simply abandoning her children, as Barbara Taylor Verstand had done with Claudia? Maybe it was all those things. I went to bed at 5:30 a.m. Cairo time. It was obvious after 10 minutes that I had no chance of sleeping. I got up and poured a neat bourbon. After a few sips, I decided to check in on the children. Uwe was nestled in her covers, an angelic smile, innocent face, sweet dreams, I imagined. I opened Robert's door. His head was at 4 on his bed, feet at 8 and 10, covers half on, half off, mouth agape, strident breathing, letting me know that he was at least alive. I went back to the kitchen, picked up the day's post, and finished the bourbon pour. Then I tipped the bottle for a second. After finishing that off, I decided it was, again, time to check in on the children. I peeked in Uwe's room, an angel. I peeked in Robert's room, head at 5:30, feet at 10 and 2, covers on the floor, slobber dripping from the still open mouth, desperate animal noises rumbling from his throat and nose. I replaced his covers. Maybe I should call her. It was 1 a.m., 7 a.m. in Cairo. My thumb hovered over her number. Why was I calling? Because it might be the last time I would talk to her? Again, what was there to say? She knew without a doubt that I loved her. I knew without a doubt that she loved me. What was there to say? I put down the phone. I decided to at least try to sleep. For a moment, I considered checking one more time on the children, but I knew what I would find. Angel, head at 8, feet at 11 and 1, gargled noises. I went to our bed where I lay, head at 12, feet at 7 and 10, eyes harshly agape, mind soberly oscillating, probing an uncertain future, clutching a cherished past. What will happen? Remember when? What will remember? After some time searching in both directions, I found myself thinking about a quote from Simone de Beauvoir. It's from her third memoir, The Force of Circumstance. Simone is contemplating her own death. I think with sadness of all the books I've read, all the places I've seen, all the knowledge I've amassed, and that will be no more. All the music, all the paintings, all the culture, so many places and suddenly nothing. They made no honey, those things. They can provide no one with any nourishment. They made no honey. I was never exactly sure what Simone meant by that. I'd always meant to ask Claudia, who was not only a de Beauvoir expert, but something of a honey connoisseur. Did she mean that the core of who we are, all those experiences, can never fully be shared or benefit anyone else? The isolation the existentialist philosophers made so much of. I figured it mostly meant that the hard-earned gains we make enriching our lives with knowledge, culture, and experience can't be passed on. Each individual has to earn it for her or himself. I can't read a book for you. I can't experience a new place for you. You're not guaranteed anything. I thought how true that was, not just of individuals, but of societies. Civilizations fall. Simone continued, but that unique sum of things, the experiences that I live with all its order and randomness, there's no place where it will live again. The promises have all been kept, and yet, turning an incredulous gaze toward the young, incredulous girl, I realized with stupor how much I was gypped. That unique sum of things. Yeah, for sure there's no place where it will all live again. Gypped. Yeah, fuck you, Fortuna. The phone rang 26 and 1/2 minutes after I got to my office. I was certain there was a different timbre to the ring than was usual. I knew before the words were spoken. They got her, the voice said. My heart went supernova. Sir, the voice asked. I reflexively hung up. My mind rapidly cycled through all the stages of grief in mere seconds. Denial, anger, bargaining, acceptance, over and back again as I sat motionless. They didn't mean her. We should nuke every one of those bastards. God, please let it not be true. I'll do anything. At least I got what time I got. All this is just a dream. They didn't mean her. Peter Thompson burst into my office. They meant her. I'd thought before that day that I knew what it meant to hurt. No. It was a sniper, not a car bomb. Claudia stepped out on the platform and up to the microphone. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here. I especially want to thank Ahmed for the invitation. You have a truly determined reformist in Ahmed. My talk today will be a conjecture of sorts. I'll hypothesize about some factors that I think contribute to successful democratic revolutions throughout history. I'll focus not just on the institutional structures, but also on the .300 caliber projectile shattered the frontal bone of the skull just above the speaker's left eye socket with a momentum equal to its velocity of 850 meters per second times its 13 grams of mass. The projectile then tore through the left prefrontal cortex, shearing millions of neurons before piercing parietal and occipital tissues. Finally, it splintered and exited the parietal bone in the back of the head. The linear momentum of the projectile was conserved and the kinetic energy transferred to the splintered bones and sheared neural tissue. The injured neurons released inflammatory chemicals that spread and damaged other surrounding neurons. In response to all that trauma, neural cells released excess glutamate, which triggered excitotoxicity, causing surrounding neurons to essentially kill themselves. The neural connections that made up memories, reason, thoughts, hope, joy, fear, and love were eradicated in seconds. When the massive damage quickly reached brainstem neurons, which control vital body functions, breathing and heartbeat stopped. The body, Claudia's body, collapsed onto the dais. On one end of the projectile's pathway had been a neural network shaped by certainty, hate, and the false. On the other end of the projectile's pathway had been a neural network created and elaborated by love, loss, reason, aspiring, beauty, and the truth. One of those things was better than the other: intellectual, social, moral, and aesthetic judgment. The truth included Claudia's belief that the people of the Arab states would have benefited from democratic reforms and strong, rationally structured institutions. The false included Haji's belief in the existence of an Allah who wanted Claudia dead. She was gone just that quickly, annihilated, reason killed by unreason. All the books, all the knowledge, all the places, all the music, all the culture, those things, they made no honey. And suddenly, nothing.